mic live? Is it working?
This guy's drinking beer.
I know, it kind of looks that way.
What's going on over there?
Oh, you know, I gotta relax. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah. That's when you're supposed to have beer, isn't
Hey,
it?
why not? Relax a little bit.
For those who don't know, Brandon and Carl, Follow the Money Investor Group, Ftmig, live on the Midas Letter Network.
Yep.
What a week. What a week we have started. I mean, I've been waiting for this. You've been waiting for this. The summer was so dull. I kept watching my money go, 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 then I finally pulled a lot of it off and just put it on the sidelines, which is the smart way to do that. And it's going.
And then you were a genius and you bought Tilray at like 30 bucks.
I did not. Okay, are we starting with that then?
Well, it's at 227 last
We're starting with that.
Yeah.
Before I say anything else, I want to say, great management, great company. They're going to be really great in this industry. Great, 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 great. Who is buying it at $220 though? Who? I mean,
a lot of people.
You need to really look at this. It IPO'd at $20. What are some of the stats? As of yesterday, it was more valuable than 23 of the Fortune 500 companies with $28 million in annual revenue. That's it. They had something like a $20 billion market cap. Where'd they come from? How's this happening? It is ludicrous. So I really just say, again, I think it's going to be an awesome company, and they very well may be going into that type of valuation in the very near future. I think they're led by a great team, and they got some really great deals. But if you're buying, if you're on the bid, just be very, very careful. I just don't see how it's more valuable than Macy's, when Macy's has been around since the early 1900s and has over $20 billion in revenue a year. How is it more valuable, market cap-wise?
I have no argument.
It's crazy.
A little bit of apple and orange there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's worth
apple and orange for sure. We're just going on values.
It's worth more than Canopy right now.
Yeah, somebody was telling me actually. So we had one of our traders in our community. Where are they at, yo? Because I can say that because it's not his real name. I was looking into it though and realized that almost 75% of the shares locked up with privateer holdings.
Yeah.
And that's
big
significant.
Money, man.
So they had 9 million, I believe 9 million shares go and start trading publicly. That's an incredibly tight float, and they've been able to just soar that. We're going to read a book about this one day. I mean, good on them.
Do you want to know the value of the dollars that have been traded today?
What is it?
Almost $4 billion.
$4 billion is traded.
That's what it's saying here. Value.
That is
$3.94 billion.
That's insane. That's crazy. And the fact that those shares are going to come unlocked one day, and they've now made billions of dollars. So again, to that management team, that's a fantastic job. You should be patting yourself on the back even while you're sleeping. Fantastic job. For retail investors, for people listening to this, just be careful. Be careful on the bid. I believe it's a game of the greater fool, where it's you're buying it, hoping it goes up so you can sell it for more. So it's almost like a hot potato of who's going to be the fool to be held with the bag.
Yeah.
You got to be careful with that, because I promise you, even them, they're thinking to themselves, wow, I didn't even expect this. Even though I think they're going to be a great company.
Well, I remember people were saying, it was overvalued at 30.
Yeah.
So.
I know. One of my friends, I think he got the IPO and he sold it for like $40. Like, I made it double. And then you're looking at it now like, oh my, what did I do?
Yeah.
Who could foresee this though? But not just that, not just Tilray, a lot of things are flying today. Cantab, Pill, they're up 25%, are now only down about 90% off of that 200 to 1 rollback. You've got all of the MJ fund in the States. That is sitting at all-time high. For anybody who forgot about the MJ fund, HMMJ, Aurora, and Canopy, those were the indicators for cannabis for a very long time. I still think they are, where MJ fund is American, although it has a lot of LPs in it. A lot of Americans I spoke to look at the MG fund for weakness and for strength. So if you actually go to Stockwatch and you go MG fund, Stockwatch, you'll see the MJ fund go up and down. There were times where you could put the MJ fund, HMMJ, which is the what's it called? Horizons, Aurora, and Canopy, and their charts look almost identical because these large funds are latching to it. And I think it's also to do with trading bots as well, where if it hits a certain point, you sell, and all those different aspects, different algorithms. to see those up that much, 9.93% for MJ Fund, 4.83% for HMMJ, and for this, and for even for Seed, up 7%. Cannabis is flying right now.
Did you sell anything today?
Today, no. Today I've done no buying and selling. We get too busy here. So for the first 10 minutes before this, I'm like, okay, what's everything doing? Because we've been so busy getting the show together. But yesterday I made a few sells. We were with Juju. I did sell some of my Juju yesterday when I saw some weakness in the bid and I saw the asks stacking. I think it's going to be still another great company, but they're due for a pullback. That was a great run that they had, and I think they're going to continue running. So let's see about that. I haven't looked into an entry point yet, but I want back in. And DNAX, Blockstrain.
I own that. Yeah.
I sold Blockstrain. It's up 18%. That's how it goes, folks. The second you sell something, Shiragas, but I made a good percentage gain off of that. But it's been crazy. It's been an amazing day today. A bunch of different things, but it's just been crazy for the cannabis world.
Yeah,
mining.
It's on fire.
Are we waiting for something today? We're waiting for something today for mining, or tomorrow, or the next day, or sometime this week.
Waiting for a Garibaldi NR.
Garibaldi.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been probably the most anticipated assay results, definitely this year. I don't know if it's arguable to say for quite some time, but everyone and their brother and their cousin and their dog are waiting for that news release to come out. What do you think it's going to do?
Well,
prediction time. You got to choose.
Yeah,
You can't go on the fence.
I think it's going to be good news. I can't predict what the market's going to react, how it's going to react. You know.
Yeah.
It does have a healthy market cap. The market is saying, hey, there might be something big here. Yeah. So if the news is subpar, you could see a sell-off. But I'm expecting good news. I'm not going to predict what the stock price is going to do. Yeah. But the haters are out. The naysayers are out.
Very much so. Yeah. And GGI is actually up 4% on the day, somewhat near its day high. And CCW, one that we've been covering a lot as well, a cobalt play. I love that Re2Ox technology there. It's really interesting to see what goes on there. They're up 13% today, back to 60 cents.
You know what? My cousin bought into that yesterday at like 51 cents. So
51 cents?
Good for him. He's up.
Nice.
His first stock ever.
And off 300,000 revenue volume, that's actually pretty decent for what they usually trade at. That's not like it's made this way off of like 10,000 or 20,000. That's actually a decent trading day for that.
Yeah.
So CCW is up as well. And I don't think we should really wait. I think we should just go right into the video because we speak about CCW, we speak about Garibaldi and a few others that I think people should really think about as well, with Eric from Gold Investment.
Great interview.
Newsletter. Crazy information that was in there. He's really knowledgeable. I really enjoyed that talk. Why don't we go to now while we continue to see what Garibaldi is doing for the rest of the day?
Sure.
We'll go over now. And our next guest is Eric Muschinski of Gold Investment Letter, joining us from the Skype universe. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, Brendan. How are you?
You know what? The markets are finally starting to move after a really slow summer for a lot of people. It's been a lot of fun watching them. And you know what? I can't complain right now. It's going well so far.
Good.
Now, tell us about yourself. You work with Gold Investment Letter, and you've been working with them for some time. Can you give, for our viewers who may not be aware of you, your background and who it is or what it is that you do?
Yeah, I started the first of all, I was a broker in the U.S. for 15 years since I was 21 years old. In 2001, I branched off and became an entrepreneur and gave up 6 licenses and managing money for a career. I launched the Gold Investment Letter the top month of the gold bull market in the fall of 2011. And I really love this space. I also have another newsletter, Elite Investments, which is sector agnostic. But I've basically built up a nice following over the course of the last 6-7 years. We have different tiers of membership in terms of I have an elite group that all high net worth individuals. We finance a lot of juniors in the $500,000 to $2 million range. And then I have, a good number of premium subscribers as well as over 10,000 free subscribers on the Gold Investment Letter itself. And so I like to find, basically produce alpha. We look for juniors that are either undiscovered or they're coming into a discovery cycle, or my favorite, when they're just dirt cheap like they are today. So I'm an entrepreneur at this point. I do some other things as well. First and foremost, I'm an investor, and I share my ideas with my readers.
No, and that resonates very much so with Carl and myself, especially Carl. Carl, I think you've always said that. You know, we love doing this show. We love talking to different people, but first and foremost, you're an investor. So perfect words.
Eric, let's talk about GGI and your thoughts on GGI and MTS, actually.
Yeah, you know, I mean, listen, it's this has been actually, it's easy to lose perspective, right? We got involved in GGI and MTS. I'm a subscriber also with one of your previous guests at Bull Market Run. I found the deals back when they started covering them at, pennies. Excuse me. And so I put out an initial premium recommendation on Metallis, specifically at 25 cents a share last August. Stock went up 11x in 3 months. Garibaldi was an absolute beast, going from pennies to $5 a share. And we're also in a seasonal area in the Golden Triangle that has very long winters. So, it was very natural what's happened, which is the retracements, the quiet period as everybody gears up. I think what's happened now is we're on the precipice of hours to days of the first release from Garibaldi to kick off what they've started with the season. But a lot of people are getting a little nervous because, they started in June and here we are in September, and it's where are the first assays? I put out a note on this a week ago regarding some of my thoughts around what happened there. And I believe they had delay. I do believe that there were some logistical issues with the drillers specifically that caused the delay. I don't think it has anything to do with they've basically been scrambling to try to find some more high grade. I'm very confident that out of the gate, especially after hole 17, with what they left us with last season, they're going to come out with some very, very nice intercepts. The key here is going to be proving tonnage. Everybody knows that. But this could be a world-class discovery, and we just don't know until we get more information this season from Garibaldi. I've actually made a bigger bet on Metallis simply because of a couple of reasons. I believe that this structure clearly goes down into the Kirkham property from the south of Nickel Mountain. In fact, I've heard that recently Garibaldi, as of even this past week, is drilling less than 200 meters away from Kirkham. They've been moving in that direction, and Metallis has got 15% of the market cap of Garibaldi. So they've also got some really interesting, big potential porphyry targets for copper gold in the south. But really the key to me is to trade alongside of Garibaldi and show that they can hit this high-grade nickel copper, and have some of that same system with Garibaldi. If they show that this season, it's game over for Metallis, and I think that valuation gap will basically it will tighten because Garibaldi will probably buy them out. They're going to trade together. Metallis has got to prove that they've got the nickel there, but it's all about Garibaldi at this point. They're going to set the tone, and I hope that they're going to set it. If not tomorrow, they have obviously a pattern of releasing news on Friday. I would expect on Friday at latest that we're going to see what's going on.
I think that was well said. If we're just talking Garibaldi from current market cap, do we need a 30-40 meter hit of massive sulfides to go up, or could we have smaller pods with, a bunch of high grade disseminated to move this market cap up?
It's a good question, and we don't know how a lot of these stocks are going to react, whether we think the results are good or not. You look at something like GT Gold and the way that stock's been reacting after they came out with massive, intercepts, really good grades, and the stock continued to sell off on the news. So I think that with Garibaldi, there are going to be smaller pods. I think that the way that this is set up, from what I understand from Dr. Lightfoot and some of the other research, you really don't need these massive, it's not going to be like a gold porphyry target where you can see this massive, huge conductor and everything is going to be directly connected. You're going to have some pockets and different multiple layers. I think as I think Peter Lightfoot called it, a magma highway. That's going to mean that there are some intermittent blobs of this very high grade stuff. And so they need to show that connectivity, but I don't know exactly what they're doing out of the gate. They kind of surprised us last season in terms of where they went with the drill rig. So let's see where they even target it. I believe they would start right after hole 14 initially and stay in the same area and hit a low risk, really good hole again. But who knows? They might know a lot that we don't, and surprise us with something that is a little bit off the beaten path that gets people excited.
Yeah, and that's something that's actually very interesting. The fact that no one really knows. I mean, you look at Garibaldi last year. Things came out and people, and it was a euphoria, and everyone was going. This year, it is hush. Nobody really knows. Is that a bad thing? Because it's so hushed, it's like, oh no, we didn't get it, we need to go find somewhere else. That could be an option, and you can never rule that out. Or is it, no, we're going to blow everyone's mind away when we finally come out with these results? I don't want to say it's a coin toss. That'd be too much up to chance. But it's interesting that there are no leaks, especially when you start talking to people who are actually well connected in the industry.
Eric?
My guess is that it's somewhere in the middle of those two scenarios. We tend to think that there's some conspiracy, when there's this silence, or that there's this master plan, or that it's an absolute disaster. And the truth is going to be somewhere in the middle. And we're going to find out soon.
Yeah.
Eric, have you seen any of Brent Cook's comments?
I've heard about him, yes. He made some last year, and I heard recently at some conferences as well, pretty, very negative comments. I don't know if I've heard all of them, though.
He's basically calling Garibaldi a scam. Now, I hold the stock, so I don't want to hear that. But,
yeah.
But him and Warren are coming out, and they're being definitely bearish right now. It looks like he sold most of his free trading shares, if you take him for his word. Have you seen his comments of late? Warren Irwin?
You're talking about Warren Irwin?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are two very different situations. First of all, with Brent Cook, who's a geologist, who's not involved in the deal, I think it's extremely inappropriate to call this deal a scam. It's not a scam. I mean, they might not have what everybody's hoping they have, but there's no doubt it's not a scam. You don't make comments like that with deals that, you're not even involved in unless you're very sure that that's the case. That could be very damaging for him, or maybe he's going to end up, becoming the hero, but I highly, highly doubt that. And there's really no upside for him to say something so extreme when it's really clearly not the case. You have guys like Peter Lightfoot that I would put against Brent Cook on nickel sulfide deposits any day of the year. And, Peter's pretty confident that they've got something special. So saying it's a scam it's actually pretty stupid. I don't see what the upside is for him. And as far as I've seen the comments, from Warren Irwin. I mean, he's a very smart fund manager. I believe that he got involved in the $3 and change placement with Sprott last year, and so I think he's got a point. In terms of this, in terms of saying the logical conclusion would be that if they've said nothing for 3 months, nothing was leaked, they haven't, come out with core photos or something, I would be skewed towards being very skeptical as well. And so he basically took advantage of that rally. I don't know if he sold all of his free trading shares or he just sold off a portion of it or what. But I think if I recall correctly, Warren was very miffed after the initial results started to come out from Garibaldi. It was things like the location maps and stuff like that, and he was very dismayed. And then his opinion changed as more information came out, and he became very bullish again. So any of us can have certain thoughts that we act on. That's our job as speculators, investors. He runs other people's money. He can't be, going crazy if he sees that there might be some risk or his instinct is telling him that. I hope that he's proved wrong in terms of the short-term sentiment. And it seems like from the comments that I was forwarded that he's open-minded to that being the case. But, that's why I put out that note last week about, what's the delay, Garibaldi? This is ridiculous. But again, I think it was because of a delay, and also that the truth is not that there's a master plan to come out with this crazy promotion that that, you know, wows everybody, and also not that they've just been striking a bunch of mud. The truth is going to be somewhere in the middle, and I'm really excited to see what it is, but everybody's got our opinions. The bets are on the table, and we're going to find out who's right and who's wrong. Probably we're going to start to figure out who's right and who's wrong within 48 hours.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. You know, it's funny because last year people talked about how promotional they were, and there was leaks, and now this year you have none of that, and you can't make people happy. So we'll definitely figure this out soon enough.
Well, it's a good point that you make as well, though, and the fact that you have to understand he's a fund manager. You know, I'm going to take a different risk if I'm with using someone else's money and lots of other people's money. And it's like you said, you know, if there is a delay and all that, and you have a little bit of a doubt, maybe you pull some of that off the table. Whereas for me as a speculator, I know the money that I'm using for this. I trade within my means. I got my things locked and loaded. I'm expecting
We're just on you guys right now because we have to figure out what's going on with that.
Okay. Well, that's one of the things that happens when you go live and still
We're
working
live?
out bugs. Oh, we're live. How you
All right.
doing?
I'm staring at a level 2 right now.
I was staring at you.
I thought I had like 15 minutes to start doing some stuff here.
I was staring at you, and all of a sudden they said we're live. But you know what? We'll work with it. We'll work with it.
More beer.
Yeah, more beer. That actually is apple juice for anyone who thinks I'm an alcoholic at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
What do you want to talk about? I'm staring at RNX right now.
I'm staring at Facebook. We'll go. RNX, actually, what's that doing? That was ripping earlier.
Yeah, it's pulled back a little bit.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard when you've got those things. So, and that's one of the things, it's so important to have L2. I don't know if we can get this up here. I think it's they're rebooting that system that puts our computers up there. But to have level 2, to have the ability to see all the bids and all the asks, you don't see it on the dark pool and stuff. I think people can still hide it. But you see most.
Yeah.
It's night and day for how you can invest.
It's like being naked.
Okay. Do go on. What's that analogy?
Well, you need it. Like I have to have it, right?
You have to be naked. I love it. Love it. But no, it's a.
Ed's walking by right now.
Hey, Sir Ed.
How you doing, guys?
But yeah, no. If you can't see it though, a lot of the times you'll hear people, especially the newer investors, they'll say, "What's resistance? What are these guys talking about a wall? Why is there an iceberg out there? It's not the Titanic."
Yeah.
You know, it's really important because you can actually see. So, and a great example, PREV, PREV. It had a TA breakout yesterday. Just like Johnny Mack was saying to us earlier, where you get a Bollinger Band squeeze and you see the candle blow through the Bollinger Bands on high volume. It's exactly what happened, and you're watching it, and the bids really started stacking on it.
Yeah.
Well, at one point, I'm like, okay, this is a bid. So I slapped the ask and I went into it. And I didn't know if it was going to be a trade or investment yet. I was just waiting. But then if you're watching the L2, you could start seeing
some rent money?
Yeah, get some. Actually, it was a 25% return in a couple hours.
Oh boy!
Hey, random high fives on networks. Why not?
Yeah.
But no, it's nice. You could see the weakness in the bids. I saw the asks stacking, and you were able to like, okay, you know what, this isn't working today, and you go out 25% in an hour.
So you killed it.
Yeah, I killed it. I killed the trade. I killed a few trades actually, but that's more personal. I needed some cash, like you said, to prepare for downtown living, Toronto. It's the city of many things,
So
one of which being very high rent.
Brandon's moving downtown.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I know, it's going to be an interesting, but...
Maybe you'll meet someone special.
Here we go. I already have.
Have you?
I already have, yeah, sitting in front of me.
Okay.
No,
Right,
this is
cheers for
actually his
that.
beer. We've been lying the whole time. But
So Warren Irwin had some comments about Garibaldi.
He did.
He said he sold all his free trading shares.
Yep.
And I've done a little bit of research, and it seems like he's sitting in a net positive position. So remember, he's using other people's money.
Yeah.
He's a hedge fund guy. He's smart. So I think he's probably sitting on free warrants, and risk-free warrants, I should say. and he probably wants to see what's going to happen here, what the news is going to be.
Yeah.
You can't blame the guy for that, right? He can't take the same risk as you and I.
No, we can't.
And I think people are reading into his comments a little bit. You know, you got to tone it down right now. People are getting a little bit emotional, and you know, oftentimes when that happens, it's usually because you've gone in too deep. You've put in, you know, X amount of money, you know, that you're sitting there and you're getting nervous, right? Not the ideal situation. I mean, look, this thing could have a good news release and it sells off and goes to $1.50. And it doesn't mean it won't go up to 5 or 6 or 7 or 20 or whatever people are throwing out there. Yeah. You know, but it could be very volatile, right? So you got to be prepared for that.
Absolutely. And I believe he was just about to say it in our interview with Eric, or it'll be afterwards, where we actually brought that question up to him. And you know, we both made a good point with speaking about Irwin. You know, he's the fund manager, and he's got other people's money that he's working with. It's not like you and I. I know my
Different
money
risk.
in there.
Yeah.
I know my risk. I'm willing to risk my money at a different level than, say, my brother or another friend or anybody in that matter. It's different. So I'm still very bullish. We saw the technical breakdown from Johnny Mack the other week. The consolidation on the weekly over the last year or so, and it's going to break one of those directions. And
it's going to break, man.
Break strong.
And we have news. We know, like, Garibaldi came out on Friday with a news release and basically, you know, put everyone on notice. Like, hey, we're going to show you guys what we're working with, and we're all looking forward to it. And it's tense, man. You've got the, you know, these guys. Some people are saying this is a big promotional thing. Yeah. And I've asked them to come on. Like, I actually extended an invite today to Warren, and we talked briefly through email. And he said, "Listen, I don't want to get into it with these, with the Vancouver hype machine, basically." And I can't blame him for that. And then, you know, other people that we've had on, they don't want to address certain comments from like a Brent Cook. So nobody really wants to get into a pissing match. But you've got the bulls and the bears, and that's what makes a market. Yeah. And you've got a lot of retailers right now that are sitting in the stock, and they're nervous.
No, absolutely. And just addressing a few people on our Facebook page here, Ftmig Facebook Live, or Ftmig Live. They were talking about poor sound for a second there. It's because we just had a mini malfunction of the video that was going before, so they had to get that all figured out.
So we're on the same stream, but the video, the pre-record was poo.
Yeah, so halfway through it started
that was a great interview too.
It was fantastic. I really hope that we can be putting it right where we left off and keep going, because he was great. Him and John were awesome.
If Eric, if you're watching right now, just Skype in. We'll bring you on live right now. I swear, why not? We'll bring Eric back in live.
We'll have to run and get earpieces to put in, but why not? Why not? But it was awesome. It was fantastic, because he was really breaking down a few things. We went from speaking about Garibaldi and nickel to speaking about cobalt and CCW, because we wanted another opinion on it.
He loves it.
John. Yep. But then we went into gold. And he was actually almost more bullish about gold than everything else, especially in the longer term. Yeah, well, exactly. And it's true what he was saying. You know, gold in right now, what did he say? It was around 1,100 or so.
I think it's hovering around there. Yeah.
Yeah, and he made a bold prediction in the next few years. It's going to test its recent high and go into the high 2,000s, even the 3,000s. I think he said. I think it's like 3,200.
Yeah. Well, a lot of things are setting up for the gold peeps, right? Yeah. We've had a very, very long bullish run here in the market, so.
And what happens when the markets start crashing? Where do people put their money? Bonds and gold. Put it where it's safer. I don't think I'm ever going to be a bond guy. I think that's
not
mostly
Bitcoin? Not Bitcoin?
I can't take. So here, we'll go on this rant.
Okay.
I love blockchain. I love it. I'm an economist through and through. I studied finance and economics. If you look up at the money supply, what's the money supply and how it affects your economy, and how your money supply is a tool that governments use to control their currency, control exchange rates, control inflation. If you take out of that and you adopt, to say, all Bitcoin, you've lost your ability, or a huge tool to fight inflation and to control your exchange rate and all of that. How could you possibly have the way that we see economics now? It would not work unless those Bitcoins or something like that was pinned to a precious metal or the US dollar or something like that. I just don't see that happening right now. I can hear Magus right now though going crazy.
No, Magus is not. No, Magus doesn't like Bitcoin.
No, he doesn't, but he knows that sooner or later crypto is going to be tied to something. It's going to have an anchor.
I like blockchain. Anchor. I think blockchain fixes world issues like inventories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never got into the cryptocurrency stuff.
No problem. Well, hey, you've got 10 minutes to think of that as well, because we are actually going to reboot so we can get that interview up. It was amazing. I want it up. We're going to reboot the system very quickly. Go grab a apple juice. Is that what we're saying this is, right?
Beer, man.
An apple juice. And, and we'll see you back in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And we're live again. After a little technology, right? Yeah, you love it when it works. Yeah. Oh, you hadn't heard a bomb in a while.
Been waiting to drop an F-bomb.
Well, that's the perfect time because yeah, we had to stop the feed there. We're gonna go back, but first I have to laugh at myself. And this is the game. Right?
I do that every day.
I know. This is what happens. During that time, I'm looking at Prev, PREV, for all those who had stronger hands than I did. It's up another 66% today with 21 million volume at 10.5 cents flying. So good on you for all the holders.
You sold at a 25% gain?
25% gain. So I'm still okay with that. You'll never go broke taking profits, but you'll never get doubles taking profits like that. But you know, that's part of the game.
No
I won't be thinking about that tomorrow. It's already out of my head. But for those who are still in there, really great company.
So you could have had 3 months rent money.
I know, but not in Toronto. It's like a day. All right, we're going to go right back to the video because Eric was killing it. I loved it.
It was a great interview.
It's not going to be a perfect splice. We're going to go back a few minutes, but let's go back into that now that we have everything up and running and go.
You know, him and Warren are coming out, and they're being definitely bearish right now. Yeah, it looks like he sold most of his free trading shares, if you take him for his word. Have you seen his comments of late, Warren Irwin?
You're talking about Warren Irwin?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are two very different situations. First of all, with Brent Cook, who's a geologist, you know, who's not involved in the deal, I think it's extremely inappropriate to call this deal a scam. It's not a scam. I mean, they might not have what everybody's hoping they have, but there's no doubt it's not a scam. You don't make comments like that with deals that, you know, you're not even involved in unless you're very sure that that's the case. You know, that could be very damaging for him, or maybe he's going to end up, you know, becoming the hero, but I highly, highly doubt that. And there's really no upside for him to say something so extreme when it's really clearly not the case. You know, you have guys like Peter Lightfoot that I would put against Brett Cook on nickel sulfide deposits any day of the year. And, you know, Peter's pretty confident that they've got something special. So saying it's a scam, it's actually pretty stupid. I don't see what the upside is for him. And as far as I've seen the comments, yeah, from Warren Irwin. I mean, he's a very smart fund manager. I believe that he got involved in the $3 and change placement with Sprott last year. And so I think he's got a point, you know, in terms of this, in terms of saying the logical conclusion would be that if they've said nothing for 3 months, nothing was leaked, they haven't, you know, come out with core photos or something, I would be skewed towards being very skeptical as well. And so he basically took advantage of that rally. I don't know if he sold all of his free trading shares or he just sold off a portion of it or what. But I think if I recall correctly, Warren was very, very miffed after the initial results started to come out from Garibaldi. It was things like the location maps and stuff like that, and he was very dismayed. And then his opinion changed as more information came out, and he became very bullish again. So any of us can have certain thoughts that we act on. That's our job as speculators, investors. He runs other people's money. He can't be, you know, going crazy if he sees that there might be some risk or his instinct is telling him that. I hope that he's proved wrong in terms of the short-term sentiment. And it seems like from the comments that I was forwarded that he's open-minded to that being the case. But, you know, that's why I put out that note last week about, you know, what's the delay, Garibaldi? This is ridiculous. But again, I think it was because of because of a delay, and also that the truth is not that there's a master plan to come out with this crazy promotion that wows everybody, and also not that they've just been striking a bunch of mud. The truth is going to be somewhere in the middle, and I'm really excited to see what it is. But everybody's got our opinions. The bets are on the table, and we're going to find out who's right and who's wrong. Probably we're going to start to figure out who's right and who's wrong within 48 hours.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. It's funny because last year people talked about how promotional they were, and there was leaks, and now this year you have none of that, and you can't make people happy. So we'll definitely figure this out soon enough.
Well, it's a good point that you make as well, though, and the fact that you have to understand he's a fund manager. I'm going to take a different risk if I'm with using someone else's money and lots of other people's money. And it's like you said, if there is a delay and all that, and you have a little bit of a doubt, maybe you pull some of that off the table. Whereas for me as a speculator, I know the money that I'm using for this. I trade within my means. I got my things locked and loaded. I'm expecting great things, but at the same time, if I'm wrong, it's my money, not everyone else's money.
Well, but are you expecting big strikes of massive sulfides?
Oh, sorry?
Yeah, I was just going to say a good point on that is, institutions think differently, number one. They would rather pay up in general to have more evidence of something that they like instead of some sort of a guess. And the example you just laid out with your own money versus managing other people's money, look at Eric Sprott. The guy is in as heavy as he can get, 20% holding, and he's been buying up to $4. It's his dough. He said he would buy more if he could. He's all in. Nothing has changed with that. And so you've got smart people on all sides of the fence.
Yeah. And sorry, you were saying on the sulfites.
No, I'm just trying to gauge the market and their expectations, right? If people are expecting, 40 meters of massive sulfides here, maybe you get a little bit of a sell-off, right? But I'm not expecting that. Well, I think they're vectoring in on a feeder, and hopefully they're going to prove up some tonnage here and show us their game plan. Yeah,
and it's interesting to note as well. I know you may not have seen it. But we had Johnny Mack come on the show last week, a guy really skilled at technical analysis and look at the chart. And it's interesting because we've been in consolidation for a long time. You'd think if there were weak hands, a lot of them would be gone by now. Well, is that something we can deduce?
It's true. It's just what's their expectation.
Yeah.
Well, technically, just a note on that. I mean, if you go even to stock charts and pick up the weekly chart on a 2-year, I mean, this thing is set up where that is a long flagging pattern, and it's either going to break up in a massive way or it's going to break down in a big way as well. But the longer these flags end up occurring, the bigger the move. I mean, if Garibaldi's got the potential, let's not forget also, Garibaldi, when we were in the heat of this last year, people were talking $20, $50 a share, Boise Bay, this and that. That excitement can come back really fast, and this thing could be $7, $8 in 30 days.
Yeah, I agree, Eric.
That'd be very interesting. You know what? That's what I'm hoping for. So that's what I'm planning for a long time. Now, you also cover another stock that both Carl and I are invested in, and one that our community actually is really, really rooting for because there's a lot of interesting things happening for it, and that's Canada Cobalt Works. What are your thoughts on CCW, and where do you think it might be going?
Yeah, so I came into Canada Cobalt Works. I was actually contacted by the company after I put a report out on cobalt. I think this was back in May or June of last year. And as I looked at it, it really became clear to me that it was really one of the, if not the best of breed junior cobalt story that was out there. It's clearly become that with what they've done in the last year or so. And so we led a financing at 20 cents with a 30-cent warrant. And I've been a supporter in the market. I really thought after the name change, this thing wasn't going to do what it did, which was run to 90 cents very, very fast. We've had a very healthy consolidation. Yesterday, the bounce to the T off of the 200-day moving average and the reversal, I put out an alert this morning, a trading alert to all of our members because I cover that stock in all membership levels. And I said, we're looking at a retest of the 90-cent level probably within 45 days. Maybe it's like 60 days or a couple more weeks after that, but it could even be in 3 weeks. It could be in 2 weeks. It's really looking good for a challenge of that. And I think some of the fundamental drivers are these guys have more than anybody, including First Cobalt, which has the highest market cap in the space, because of a lot of that's primarily because of the mill that they own as well, which is really neither here nor there. I don't want to talk about First Cobalt too much, not to slam them. I think that they've got a valid potential model as well. But Canada Cobalt Works has little over a third of the market cap. They're the only company that's underground in the camp. They have visuals on each level with two guys, at least two guys from my knowledge, with Frank Bassa and one of the other mining engineers that worked on this with Agnico Eagle back in the 80s. It makes so much sense to me that when you have a high-grade cobalt vein, you have lower-grade silver, higher-grade silver, lower-grade cobalt in this type of a structure. Agnico ended up focusing completely on the silver. I think Frank Bassa made the reason there's so much value here is because of his foresight in taking over this project early before the cobalt market started to heat up. And they're clearly punching extremely high grade cobalt intercepts. They have other minerals that are there with the only added in the camp, the underground access. They're very, very developed. They're basically producing cobalt sulfide product for their potential customers in Asia. Frank went out there around a year ago, a little bit before that, to try to find out what they wanted. So they're actually producing product, which frankly, the early indications of that are they could be a very significant revenue producer going forward. I mean, I've run the numbers, and that alone, just with some of the production and what they could earn from it, could drive the stock a lot higher. Obviously, the Re2Ox system is a potential game changer. I mean, clearly this cobalt camp is extremely active with a lot of different companies. There's new companies that are coming in that are very well financed, even right next door to Canada Cobalt. And the problem in the camp, and even in places like Idaho and other parts of the world, but particularly in the cobalt camp, are the arsenic levels. And nobody really talks about that, but it's a big problem. And with the Re2Ox being able to take out 99% of the arsenic in a green fashion, that could be a complete spin out of a new business. They also have the ability to extract, lithium and things from old products that could be done through the Re2Ox. We haven't heard a lot about that recently. I think that that's actually a real viable business model as well. But just with supplying the camp with the technology, you could spin that out into another complete different company that we could own as shareholders of Canada Cobalt, which could create massive value on its own. So I'm expecting not only a lot of new drill results, more Re2Ox news. They've stepped out recently near the mine and believe that they're onto a new discovery, which could really wake up the market as well. It looks like they're onto something there, and so that's pending as well. Canada Cobalt's basically got a perfect storm of news over the next 60 days or so, and they're also starting a marketing campaign. So, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer to go back to 90, and it probably goes well over $1 by year end.
Wow. Well, over $1 by year end, you heard it here, and probably not first. It's probably been said a couple of times, but you heard it here.
I like Eric.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that's two well-known people who really look into the market, who look at that Re2Ox and look at CCW and say, you know what, there's potential. There's potential, and this could really be something. And we all know we're continuing to look at Audi. Audi just came out with their all-battery SUV. You've got, obviously, Tesla has been around for ages. All these companies are realizing, wait, we got to get in this segment. Where are they going to get all that cobalt from? Where are they going to get the nickel? Where are they going to get the lithium? All these different things. It's going to cause a massive demand for this. I wonder if it's enough to really start pushing these up really soon.
Well, I hope so. I know there's some people in our group that have got in the 60s and 70s, and they're like, what's going on here? They're expecting it to make a move up. But there's definitely some warrants being exercised and consolidation, right? So seems healthy.
Now, quick question for you. We've been talking about GGI and nickel. We've been talking about cobalt. What's your eye on with gold right now? Gold's actually, you look at some of these results that have been coming out recently. You saw Sokumon have that great find, and it started rocking up. You're looking at Aben, they've had a great find. Golden's had a great find. You look at TIG, and they were able to, Triumph Gold, they were able to find a massive porphyry system, and they're still trying to really see if that's economical. There's a lot of different things coming on right now. What's your eye on with gold, and where do you see for some of these stocks coming up in the next little while?
Yeah, I mean, I look at gold from a bit of a macro portfolio allocation standpoint first. Everybody should own 10% of their investable assets, in my opinion, in physical gold and silver. Gold, the thing about gold is, a lot of investors think very short term. Gold, going back to 1971, when it was cut from the link of the US dollar, has compounded at 8.5% a year to today. That's not bad, and it's fantastic in terms of keeping your buying power versus, and I'm talking about the US dollar, the Canadian dollar, it might be even better in that sense, certainly recently, but the goal and the role of gold is to maintain our time, energy, and labor that we put into working in one period of time, and then we're able to transfer that into the future without it being diluted like fiat currencies. And for that alone, it's a very valuable part of a portfolio. And really, I believe that it's essentially the most stable form of cash savings because it maintains that value over time. So I think that's important. We had a massive bull run in gold that was up, 9 years in a row. Going into 2011, we had a 4-year consolidation, and then we finally saw a little bit of a heartbeat in 2016. When you talk about the miners, the sector was absolutely bombed out. A lot of these juniors were going out of business. They were down 90% from the 2011 highs as we went into late 2015, early 16. We saw what gold and the gold miners can do when they essentially tripled in 7 months going into the summer of 16. And I've been surprised at how weak it's been since then. But think about it this way. We've been in for the last, essentially, besides a 6 month, 7 month period, we've been in a brutal bear market for 7 years. And I believe that all of the functions from a macro standpoint, the absolute massive debts and deficits that countries are carrying around the globe, is a very, very fruitful environment, amongst other things, for the price of gold to do well in the coming years. We've had some real headwinds in the short term, very, very strong US dollar. There's a lot of things going on in the world that have been holding it back a bit. My sense is that we're bottoming out in gold around here. The worst case scenario is that it retests that 1050 level, and this lull lasts a little longer than we wanted to. I think we're right now just starting a bounce that's going to be a pretty significant rally in the gold miners and in the price of gold. Silver, and again, you look at, I'm sure people on your show have talked about the commitment of traders reports. The smaller investors and speculators and money managers that are really momentum based are upside down short. The commercials, which are the pros that are in the gold business, that are always at the right time, they're at the right side of the market at the right time in big turns, have been net long for the first time in history 2 weeks ago. So everything is set up, I think, from all different angles for this to be a really good environment for gold and silver investors. And gold stocks are cheap. That's what I know. They're absolutely cheap. Some of the ones you're talking about, obviously, if you get a junior with a new discovery and they hit some really good gold, and this is a discovery-driven market right now, there's no question about that. So gold or silver big hits can participate along with nickel or copper hits, and you got to keep your eye out for those type of plays. But I think there's a massive opportunity even to put some of your more conservative money into some of the miners, some of the bigger producers. They're just too cheap. And 2011, I don't believe, was the peak in terms of frenzy, bubble. Think about where gold stocks are going to be if you believe that gold is going to go back and retest 1900 in the US dollar in the next couple of years. I mean, after this washout that we've had, they're going to be up ridiculously. And my ultimate prediction is that gold is going to go into the $2,500 to $3,200 range in the next, call it 3 or 4 years. May happen a lot sooner. Gold stocks are going to be a great investment over the long haul.
Oh, fantastic answer. Fantastic answer. I love hearing it. And I think you're right, you know, especially when you start looking at the overall markets. You have to go macro once again. You have to look at North American markets. You have to realize we're in the longest bull run for stocks in US or in North American history, according to numerous reports that have come out. It doesn't just keep going up. We're going to have a contraction soon, whether it's a soft landing or whether it's an actual recession of some sort. It's going to be coming soon, and when that happens, people typically start going into gold, so I think that's going to help your theory out a lot as well.
Eric, what else are you watching?
I would say, you know, from a timing perspective, if your listeners want some real potential action, one stock I would bring to your attention right now, it's a discovery play. It's very early, called Garibaldi Resources, symbol GUG in Canada. So get this, I started buying Garibaldi at 0.5 to 1 penny in late 2015. I alerted my premium readers at 1 penny and then free subscribers at 2 cents. And I've been saying to buy it for a long time. I mean, that goes back, we're almost coming on 3 years since I recommended it. However, you know, with the stock around 30 cents Canadian right now, not only are we up 30x on the shares, a lot of us parlayed our penny stock into a 3 cent financing with a 5 cent warrant. So that is, you know, 30x on the stock and another 25x on the warrant. So you're talking about a 55 bagger. I am not selling any stock. This thing is, if you look at their recent news release, you can get, and this is also a really unique story in the sense that they don't need to raise money. They have a year, $1 million a year royalty for a project that they sold in 2014. They just had their second $1 million payment in May, so they have 3 more years where they get floated $1 million a year. They can't do a ton of drilling with that, but they can pick their spots in terms of where they finance. And they are located in Sweden, which is a very interesting area that has monster deposits. There are companies there, huge companies like Agnico that are very active, but we saw a couple of plays that are nearby Gungnir, one in particular, Orion Resources, AU, when they came out with their initial discovery back, and this was gold, back about 1.5 years ago. Their stock went from pennies to over $3 a share. It still trades around $1.50. Barcelli, which is very close to Gungnir, their initial discovery took the stock to almost $2. That's still trading, I believe, around $1. Gungnir is the lowest market cap play, but with what they came out with about 1.5 weeks ago, they released core photos. There's actually two or three core photos that it's uncanny how similar they look to Garibaldi's. I'm not saying that they've tapped into some crazy high-grade nickel deposit, because this probably, with the way that they described it, is going to be primarily copper, but they hit 130 meters of mineralization, starting 3 meters below surface. This is on their hole number 7. The first 5 holes was in their southern part of their property, which is predominantly looking for gold and copper, which is what I ended up getting involved in this thing for. And they hit those 5 holes in the summer. I've gotten word they sent 2 of them back to the lab in August for retesting. Typically when that happens, it's because the results are very good and they want to make sure that they have proof that they're good. That's not always the case, but that's normally why they get sent back. I think that's a very interesting bullish indication. And they're going to be coming out, so those 5 assays are going to be coming out any day. That could set the stock off. There's the hole number 7, which looks like it could be I'll just tell you, from conversations I've had with people around the company that were in the core shack with 3 geologists, 2 from Sweden and the CEO from Canada. You know, geologists, as one person put it to me, if you ask them if the glass is half full or empty, they're going to say, is that even a glass first? They're very skeptical. And in this particular case, these guys were kids in a candy store going through this core. They're onto something, and it could be very big. Nobody really knows about this stock yet. And my sense is that when you look at the landscape of juniors, I pride myself on being early with deals that, you know, are about to come on the radar or are on the radar with something very interesting. There's no better stock that has the potential to go to $1 or $2 from 25 or 30 cents in the next month and a half than Gungnir in the entire market. I mean, if they come out with even close to what I think they're going to start coming out with the first 5 holes and then thereafter, they also have a $400 million nickel resource already on the project that they bought for a song in the middle of the end of the bear market that gets no value. So it's a very interesting deal from a lot of different standpoints. You have nickel, you have probably some significant gold, and also now with this copper mechanism that they're tapping into, primarily copper, I think. It's probably got a bunch of different minerals in there, and it's a very unique. I've sent this to 3 geologists who all came back to me and said, basically, Eric, you're onto something here. I've never gotten that type of report from independent geologists that work with me. And there's no examples of what they're pulling up around this Swedish area. And they also drilled in an area that nobody's ever been anywhere near this particular spot. It's pretty remote. So that's what I would put on your folks' radar and kind of see what happens with those first 5 holes in this number 7 hole. They should be out, both of those releases should be out within 30 days, maybe one of them within a week.
Well, yeah, I appreciate it very much, and that's really interesting. We will, and this has been a great chat. We'd love to do this again in the future. We love being able to talk to people who are really submerged in the industry, and the information I hope that our viewers are able to find entertaining and educating. I just want to appreciate your time very much, Eric. You can be found at Gold Investment Letter. Thank you again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day as well.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
I like Eric.
Before we talk about that, Tilray's at $244.
That's what I was told. So if they wanted to do a private placement right now, would you be in that?
Oh my goodness! I
get a little bit of a discount.
No comment.
To the market?
I've been harsh enough, even though I love the company management. It's the share price. I can't believe it. I can't.
Are you going to get some puts on it?
Oh, I can't even right now. It hasn't been trading that long.
I think you can.
Is there options on it?
They're expensive, I heard, though.
Oh, probably.
A lot of volatility.
I heard you can barely even short it right now because Privateer owns like 75% of it. So yeah, very smart.
Can't short it.
It's so expensive you almost can't short it.
But you can.
You can. That's why I said almost.
Okay.
No, Eric was awesome. Yeah, Eric was fantastic.
Eric, we're going to get him on at least once a month.
I love talking to people who've been in the mine industry for a very long time. So they've seen cycles. They understand that, a lot of people, including myself, coming into mining, it's only been recently. And it's a fascinating area to look into and to invest. I know you've been a little bit longer in that sector. But it's really cool and entertaining talking to someone who's been in it for as long as some of these guys, and just like, okay, 1 second, grab a pen and paper and start. I love it.
I want to get them on a show and talk about the losers.
Yeah, that'd be very.
Because I know you're buying the pennies and the 2 and the 3. Like, I want to hear about some of the losing stories too.
Oh, they're out there.
Let's balance it out a little bit.
They're out there. If you think any single analyst out there, any single person out there doesn't have that one loss, that one bag, we're like, why did I make that decision?
It's mining.
There's plenty of them out there. But no, it's nice to have them on. It's nice to talk about a couple of things. That's a second person who's revered and people listen to their word when it comes to CCW and the Re-2Ox technology that they have going on over there. So you know what? Let's see it come through. Let's see it happen. But I'd love it. Still a shareholder, so I would definitely love it.
Yeah, you're almost done your beer there.
I know. If this was a beer, I would be ashamed of myself because I should not. That should be finished a long time ago.
Stop lying.
But a couple of things coming up this week. Clearly, we're still waiting for GGI. When's it going to come out? It's starting to look like it might be like a late week type of thing.
I was thinking last week.
We'll see that. But another thing I wanted to highlight, if we've got my NDI up, if we can, that fancy acronym that makes it go up on the screen back here, Metallic Minerals is one of our clients on Ftmig.com, and Greg Johnson was fantastic. When we first brought him over to our Facebook group, he just came on a Facebook Live. I think we went like almost an hour just talking about, okay, what should you look for in a cannabis company, or forgive me, into a mining company. And he was speaking about you need to look for tonnage, you need to look for management, all those things. He was fantastic. He's back. They're at a convention right now, a summit in Colorado. Beaver Creek Resort is where it's being held. But it's going to be, I'm trying to find the name of it because it's eluding me right now, but it is Thursday, September 20th. There we go. I don't have to read so small. Thursday, September 20, 4:30 to 4:45 by clicking on this link. This link is also in our Follow the Money investor group. So if you just search
Quite the view
Metallic,
there.
there. Oh, it looks beautiful.
People just hanging out.
Yeah, they're
under a
working
tree.
over there, right? They're working. No, I kid. But you can click on there. Greg has been in the industry for years. He was part of the Nova Gold when that started flowing. So anybody in mining would know about that as well. It's great to learn more about metallic minerals, but also it's a learning experience, education. And if you go to our website, ftmig.com,
Is that you?
There's a really good-looking person beside me. I don't know who that guy is. I got to work on that a little bit. But Greg Johnson, we were going through, and this is really cool because we just went on a Facebook Live, and he was teaching us about mining. So lots of videos on there to be looking at as well. But
what is that?
That is coming up. This is GGI, actually.
It's a lot of numbers.
This is GGI. Do I have this full screen properly? It's cutting off a little bit here. The GGI is actually, it's been pretty steady up in the 270s. It's not that bad. It's been doing very, very well. If we look at this at a chart, I think I already have the chart open here.
Pull up block strain.
Are you trying to rub it in my face?
I still own it.
So DNAX. 33.5, it's making a great move. I have it here actually. Give me a second here to set this up.
Little mountain there.
So DNAX, here I want to point something out because it's happening again. So when we brought in, it's not showing the very corner here. Let me pull this over here.
You gotta zoom it?
No, there we go, perfect. If you look at over here, I'm gonna pull, I don't know how many cords I have on me. If you look at over here, if we can get this camera on me, I don't know if we can or not, on the corner, you'll see that this is broken through. It's on top of all the previous resistance it's had before. And you look at the volume that's burst out as well. It's actually the worst time to sell. Yeah, I did it yesterday.
So why did you sell?
I actually need the money. I did it a certain way. I go in and out. I put a lot of my money in my in my investments. But you see the volume here? So it's broken through the Bollinger Bands here. So it's a Bollinger, and then you've seen this is a TA breakout, really nice one because you've seen it actually with volume. It tried to do it here, but it kind of came back a little bit. I think that's going to run. I think it's going to run, and I'm not in it. So that's not even like I'm trying to get my own stock going up.
Yeah.
I get nothing out of that. But it's really interesting to see that because Johnny Mack came on, and it wasn't for him. I'd never have looked into stuff like this, specifically about them breaking the bands and on volume and what goes on afterwards. It's really nice to see that. So let's see if anyone else has done it, because someone else did this earlier. This is why I bought Prev in the first place. See here? You see it on the side here? You'll see that the volume's broken up. You see the Bollinger Band starting to get tighter, and then all of a sudden, that candle blew through the Bollinger Bands, but it was also on high volume. It entered into oversold, overbought a little bit, but we even had a MACD cross to prove it as well. So
Look at you go.
I know.
Jesus.
It's almost like
Let's do everything around here.
It's almost like I'm learning.
Let's pull something out. I want to see you stand up again. That was cool.
Stand up and go over
directing
there?
Traffic.
I know. Well, what else are we watching here? Juju. We were looking at Juju before. See, same thing. You're starting to see a trend. Broke through the Bollinger Band. It had volume. It's been walking the bands all the way up. Now you see it came back. It touched its EMA 8 exponential moving average, and it bounced perfectly off of it. That purple line, or it's not purple. What is that?
But you didn't trade it, did you?
No, I did not trade that. No. I actually I locked in 160% gains on it. Actually, it was really good. That was in about a week and a half. I was brought onto them from James himself. Showed me this stock. It worked out. So I love it.
That's why you got to watch the Midas Letter.
Absolutely. There's a lot of good things. I love some of the people that come on with his show, on our show. I love talking to people.
Let's check out a couple things. Can you pull up Canada House, CHV?
CHV, yes I can.
Stock just never moves, man. See what's going on here.
Why? Oh, I did the U.S.
CNX, I think.
Yeah. They are at 18.5 still. They're trending there. They're not going anywhere anytime soon from the looks.
I dropped by their facility last week.
Yeah, nice.
Wanted to talk to Riley.
Yeah,
Riley
they've been in this zone for the longest time.
That thing is ready for a pop.
It is.
I don't know which way it's going to pop.
Live test chat. Hey, Johnny Mack right there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's. Hopefully it starts bursting through. I like the guys over there. Let's see what happens with that.
Quite the wall at 19.
How is TIG looking? Okay, a little bit of let's see if it's been consolidated.
Was there
here
news
as
today
well.
on that?
On TIG, I don't believe so. We've been stuck in here. You don't see it too often. But again, it's funny. It sounds comical that now all you have to do is look for that. Look how many times when that candle breaks through those Bollinger Bands and they've come together a little bit and you've had volume go with it. How many times it's launched up?
Can you pull up Pivot?
Pivot. Yes, I can.
They dodged my request, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
To come on?
Yeah.
Didn't they know that?
Cam guy is a little crafty.
Didn't they know?
Just gonna call him Crafty Cam.
Yeah, like quite honestly, we get like 5 million views a day. Why aren't they coming on?
Pivot. What's it at right now?
So this is Pivot. It's looking at 61 cents.
Dude, what happened here?
It burst into the 80s. When did that happen?
Wait a second. Can you pull up a 5-day? What's going on here?
I don't know. It really, little bit of a jack there, but oh, you know why?
TIG.
We went back to TIG. We like to have fun here. That's what we do. It's the beer, man. It's the beer.
I know. Drinking, man.
So going the 6 month
Hanging
here.
out with Ed too long.
I know. You know, if I was hanging out with Ed, that'd be whiskey or wine.
Give me a 5-day.
A 5-day pivot. Boom.
That's
back to Pivot. Yes, we are.
a 5-day?
That's your 5-day, my man. That's all put up here.
I'm not seeing a 60 or an 80 move here.
No. I don't know why there, but
alrighty.
But no, it's nice tracking all these, and you know what? As you start looking for these signals, and that's what we keep saying, find someone who knows a little bit about TA, because I assure you, I've said it multiple times on here. I've been raised a fundamentalist. I love looking at their financials. I love looking at.
Well, you're in the wrong sector, okay?
I know. You have to throw it all out. That's why, though, you have to learn TA.
Don't make me pull out my TD fund manager story again.
I know. I think we already have that one plastered over the internet for a long time. Well, hey, we are going to have a very interesting guest coming on live at 2:30 talking about a public, or about to be, public company tomorrow. But before that, we had Guy come through, the CEO of Tetra Bio-Pharma. And we had him talk about TBP, lots of different interesting things going there.
Tell the audience how this interview came.
Very important. And it's also in that video as well. To all of you listening out there, if you have somebody, if you're a large shareholder, if you are someone who's just really passionate about the company, you talk to IR, you talk to the CEO, whatever it be, throw them a message. We'd love to have them on. This came from somebody. You made a message saying that exact words in I think it was in our Discord chat rooms or in our Facebook group.
I just said, hey, you give them a show. Give these companies a show.
Yeah. And he reached out to them. One of our, we won't say names on the air, but one of our members reached out, and sure enough, we got him on the show, and he was able to tell us some really interesting things about what is happening right now for them, but also what is going to happen in the near future. So it was a great segment. It was all brought to you by Follow the Money, because it was our community who brought it to to the community. I love that. Love it. So why don't we go there now, and we'll be back in a few minutes. And we are back, and we have Guy Chamberland, CEO of Tetra Bio-Pharma. How are you doing today, sir?
Very well. How about you?
Doing well. We'll just keep looking at this crazy cannabis industry. It's just, it's been nonstop roller coasters up and down. It's all over the place, but it's exciting. We're seeing something that we haven't seen since the 30s when Prohibition came out. So it's a really exciting time.
Well, for us, it's also exciting. I mean, we're in a, I guess, very unique position compared to, some of the cannabis companies, but we typically compare ourselves more to GW Pharma than anybody else out there. So seeing the recent approval of, Epidel-X by the FDA, for us, it's very encouraging news as we move forward, basically trailblazing behind GW.
No, absolutely. And on that exact point, actually, can you take a moment for any of our viewers who may not know about your company or may not know a lot about them? You are in trial runs currently as well. I'm not sure if it's gotten to human trial yet, but can you explain what exactly you do and why it is close to GW Pharma and why that's important?
Sure. Basically, back in, I guess we ran our first clinical trial in January, April of 2017. It was the first in human of a pharmaceutical phase 1 clinical trial. So that's basically a very exhaustive assessment of, say, inhaled cannabis in healthy volunteers. So we did all of the pharmacodynamics, pharmacokinetics, and full safety that a typical regulatory agency like the US FDA and Health Canada wants to see for a drug approval. We then did the same actually with the cannabis, with 3 cannabis oils. We're studying them as well, so we completed that. We actually are, have a phase 2 trial ongoing with 3 cannabis oils, a 1-to-1 ratio THC CBD, a 1-to-2, and a 1-to-20. And we have a phase 3 actually ongoing for basically smoked cannabis with one of our drugs, our lead drug called right now PP01. And Health Canada had recently approved a trial head-to-head against fentanyl. So for us, that's why we're kind of trailblazing behind GW, because we've been in the clinical trial settings now for slightly over basically a year, and we're advancing extremely fast towards the market. And we also have our PP02 that we're in discussions later this month actually with the US FDA to basically bring to the market under a 505(b)(2).
No, and I love that, because I've been saying for a long time, we're just scratching the surface of what these different products and what these different medicines are going to be coming out of cannabis. So it's really interesting to hear that point. And actually something that I forgot to mention at the very beginning of this actually was that we had said that I'd love to hear about your company for any of those watching on our YouTube channels or Facebook, whatever it be, who may not know your company. But it's actually very interesting how you came on our show. It was actually from one of our members of our Follow the Money Investor Group Facebook group, where they had mentioned, you've got to get them on. I love this company. I've been investing in them for a long time. And that's how this all began, actually. They approached us and said, we'd love to see you on here to talk about the company. So I thought that was really interesting, where you're seeing retail investors now really getting involved with companies. I think much more than what they're used to be doing, and they're talking to the companies. They're learning about them. They want to continue to learn. They're in chat rooms talking about them, and now they're coming to someone like ourselves and saying, hey, he needs to be on the show and he needs to talk about the company. And here you are. You made yourself time available, so I appreciate that.
And you're right, though. I mean, that's how they reached out to me through LinkedIn, told me how to send an email to you guys, and I always respond to any retail shareholder that reaches out to me. I mean, I've always typically returned their calls, answered their emails, answered their LinkedIn messages, and I think it's important. Many of them have questions because we're unique. We're very different from Canopy, very different from Aurora, and even MedRelief, in that we're working down the pharmaceutical path. So a lot of them don't understand what a 505(b)(2) means. So I take the time and I explain it to them. And I said, well, we're just like any other pharmaceutical drug. You can compare us to Merck Frost, to AstraZeneca, or even to Pfizer. We're going down the same path all other analgesics went through. No,
and again, it does make you interesting, and it makes you hard to understand at times as well. So I appreciate you going through a few of these things, because when people are thinking of cannabis, especially your investor who's just like watching the stocks go and like, oh, I need to get into this, and then all of a sudden they see like an actual pharmaceutical company who's looking into the cannabinoids and looking at how to extract them. It is different. On that note, for possible investors out there or people who are currently invested, what are you really excited about for the remainder of Q4 and leading into next year for your company? Is it products? Is it getting past certain stages? What's on your first list of, I would love to check this off, investors will love this?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us right now is you're going to see an acceleration of our activities in the U.S. with the FDA. Like I said, we announced that we had the Type B meeting coming up with the U.S. FDA this month. So basically, that's going to mean you're going to see an acceleration of the PP02 going to the market. You'll see announcements obviously coming up very soon on PP05, because the phase 2 trial is obviously getting close to the end. So we'll be a company that will have tremendous information on humans, basically how pain patients actually can respond to cannabinoids. And that's pretty unique. I mean, other than GW that published its data on Sativex and Epidel-X, there's never been any trials, randomized versus placebo in a pharmaceutical setting for any cannabis oils or even inhaled cannabis for that matter. That's all going to be coming up in the next quarters with all this information and some, unique surprises as always. Like I told at my General Assembly to kind of our shareholders, is I'm not the type of person who's going to announce things before it's done. When we announce something, it's because it's been done and it's been approved. Just like when we announced the hemp energy drink, it wasn't a promised to the market that we will develop, an energy drink, it was post basically approval by Health Canada of the drink. And that's been our model. It's that we'll talk after we achieve it. And that's been more of a model closer, say, to a pharmaceutical setting than to some of the other cannabis companies that, make promises to the market.
No, and I personally think you're right in that regard to do that. There's a lot of different companies out there where, there's a lot of press releases. There's news releases talking about news releases that are yet to come about something about a news release. And, you see a lot of that. And it's okay sometimes to hype up certain things and to get a little bit of excitement. I understand marketing and promotion, that's all good. But I do really appreciate when you come from a standpoint of a company where you're getting it done. And you'll make a news release and you'll make a press release when that is finished, and you have results to show for. So I do appreciate that.
And I think it's important for all your shareholders and listeners, that if they're looking for the next GW, well, it's I think Tetra is a good choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And going on the pain management aspect for a moment here. I know the trial is to try to use cannabinoids to help with pain management. Where do you think cannabis is at right now? Do you think it can really replace all of these different opioids that we have? Or do you think it could replace, headaches and minor things, but then be used in conjunction with, say, some sort of opioid or some sort of pain medication for the severe cases? Are you looking to bring down how much they require of those other drugs? Or are you looking to completely say, no, cannabis could do this?
Well, and that's actually very good question. And I'll give you, in layman terms, kind of the pharmaceutical answer to that. We actually have evidence. So what I'm going to tell you is actually based on what we've seen in human subjects and patients. So we know, for example, that we can use cannabinoids to reduce, say, the opioid use over time. And I've seen that with other drugs as well, say that are plant-based, that we can actually, once you get the person's, quality of life alone just to improve and even just improve their sleep, that over time the person's pain will go down because, one, they're sleeping better, so the body is able to recover. That, I think, will easily achieve with cannabinoids. In the sense of pain, you have to go back, and I tell people, look at the first synthetic THC drug. It was approved back in 1985 called Marinol. And since then, there had been Nabalon, and then there was Sativex, and all these drugs failed in chronic, cancer pain patients. And it's really tough to treat pain directly head to head. You have to get levels very, very high into the blood to achieve, the pain relief. Pain is a bigger challenge, but we believe that the inhaled route is going to lead to a very significant, progress in pain relief, because basically by the inhaled route is going straight to the brain, and you're achieving the relief that the patients want. So that I think you will see. To claim that you will be alone, say, in the monotherapy, that I don't think we'll see right away. That'll take many years of, say, drug development with cannabinoids. But, from other experience and other drugs, I think you will see that cannabinoids will become excellent, what we call adjuvants to an opioid therapy, and allow physicians to decrease the levels of opioids in their patients as the patient progresses. And that we have data. We'll be finishing, like I said, our PP05 phase 2 trial in the coming month. And with that, we're going to be announcing, I think it's in October, they're at a scientific meeting in California presenting some of the first data from this trial. We know now the doses that are required, say, of oils to achieve pain relief in patients, and that's going to lead to a whole series of other, basically product developments and even potential natural health products for us to commercialize.
Yeah, and I appreciate the answer there where, you were very honest with the fact that certain aspects of pain we're still working towards, but the minor aspects, headaches, you mentioned sleep. It's a massive one that people are starting to recognize that there are certain cannabinoids that can really help you with sleep deprivation or with certain sleep illnesses or whatever you would actually classify them as. But even if you can prove that you can take, say it's 10 milligrams of codeine, or I'm just saying numbers here, 10 milligrams of codeine for somebody, but through cannabinoids and having some sort of a natural plant to go with that, where the addictive properties you can argue are incredibly different. If you can drop that down by half, you could really, really help some of these, especially I'm thinking in my mind, athletes. I watch a lot of sports. You can really help some of these athletes where they get hooked on these drugs. They get hooked on Oxycontin. They get hooked on oxycodone. T3s, whatever it be. You see it time and time and again, you know, it's 30 and 30 on TSN or anything like that. It's a tragedy, but they're in pain and they need something to be able to continue to go through. If we can move where, you know, something like your product or someone's that's proven, if we can prove that they only need half of that and you can hopefully prevent these types of addictions from happening ever, that in itself is a huge success, and I'm really interested to see if we can get to that stage.
I think we will get to it. I think you're raising a good point, but for me, I'd say the addiction is not even the best benefit you'll get from decreasing the opioid use. And you know, when I look at our fentanyl trial that was announced, that was approved by Health Canada, if you look at the fentanyl crisis for a patient with breakthrough pain, these are patients that are already on what we call a background, you know, level of opioids to deal with the background pain. And the big breakthrough is something that's kind of like these spikes in pain that come during a day. So you take, you know, fentanyl sublingually or by a spray to reduce that pain. Well, it's long before you see the relief. So typically they'll see the relief in 20, 60 minutes. And if it's not relief, some take 2 or 3 doses, and that leads to overdoses. That you won't see with cannabinoids, because one, you're not going to get the respiratory depression. That's basically the danger of increasing the doses of opioids. You're not going to see the types of deaths that we were seeing with opioids. So other than, say, the benefit of decreasing the levels of opioids, even if I begin to escalate my doses of cannabinoids over time, I'm going to have a much better safety profile than any of the opioids are going to have versus, you know, fentanyl. And that is very, very significant. So even if you were to say that in terms of morphine equivalents that, and, you know, maybe the comparison's not good, but I think people understand it. Even if I was, say, half the efficacy of morphine, the fact that I'm safer, I can use it a lot easier in milder conditions and even more severe conditions, because I don't have the fear of overdosing my patient from and creating the respiratory depression. No,
and that's very interesting actually hearing it now and that put that way. One last question for you, and we'll let you get back to your digs. I can only imagine you're very busy. There are over 111 cannabinoids in cannabis that we're aware of. That's the last number I've seen, at least. We're really only talking about, what, THC, CBD, CBG, CBL, like there's maybe a half a dozen we're really talking about. Is there one cannabinoid that you guys, you know, you may not have already started working on it, but there's one that really stands out to you and people are saying, you know, like, nobody's looking at this yet. This could solve X ailment. We can't wait to start looking into that. Is there one that stands out to you?
Well, I'm not going to name it, but we announced several times. We have even intellectual property. We have filed patents. We have a huge development program in basically the field of oncology, where we're looking, you know, just like GW, they also have a research program where we're looking at cannabinoids to be what we call cytostatic agents. So basically to help stop the progression of tumors. It's obviously research in animals at this stage, but I mean, that's a very unique area. You're going to see progress from us in that field. For us, we believe that there are multiple secrets, you know, in the plant, I guess, of cannabis that people will unlock in the coming years. And the more research people do, like Tetra and other companies, the more our scientists are going to discover these unique cannabinoids out there with, you know, properties that we can exploit in the drug world. And keep in mind, I always tell that to people, I mean, the great majority of prescription drugs and even over-the-counter drugs actually have, like I say, a relative in a plant somewhere. So, I mean, the majority of our drugs have an origin in a plant, so it's not at all surprising that cannabinoids are the next series of basically prescription drugs.
No, I appreciate it. And, you know, I want to thank you for your time and coming on here and speaking to both myself and for all of our viewers. And I'll ask that question again maybe after a news release or a press release when you start going forward and that starts coming out. But it's been very educational. I appreciate it very much. TBP, you can find you. Sorry, is it on the CSC or TSX Venture?
TSX Venture.
TSX Venture. TBP is their ticker. Thank you, Guy. I appreciate it very much. I can't wait to have you on the show again soon.
You're welcome, and I'm glad to be back anytime.
Perfect. And speaking of TPB, we've actually got somebody who is co-founder of Tetra Bio-Pharma. We've got Ryan Brown, CEO of NBUD, NBUD Capital and NBUD Farms, here on Spike. Skype.
What a day. Today? What a day it's been.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, guys.
Hey, so I appreciate coming on short notice. We were talking about Tetra, and James had seen that they were up on the screen. We were interviewing Guy. He's like, why don't we get Ryan on? And here you are. So thank you. That was such short notice.
Yeah, no problem at all, guys. Thanks a lot. Busy day for NBUD today as we list tomorrow on the CSE. So we're anxiously awaiting our listing. Yeah,
I was going to say new listing. It's going to be listing under, what's the acronym it's going to be listing under?
NBUD.
NBUD. Very nice. And it's going to be on the CSC. And how long has this been in the making?
About 10 months or so, or about 10 months ago, we made an agreement with Tetra to acquire their original ACMPR application that they no longer wanted to move forward, obviously focus on drug development. And so we thought that was a good project for us to get behind, to build out the ACMPR application in the facility with a focus on hopefully providing them with some of the cannabis that they're going to need as they continue their obviously very impressive pipeline of drugs.
Smart.
Very nice, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And when it comes to facility and where you are with everything, I mean, this just came across Chrono's attention. We hadn't heard about it before. For the other investors who are wondering, who is this company going public tomorrow? Are you guys operating in Ontario? Do you have a large facility, or what are the details of what you have going on?
So we, our facility that we're in the process of constructing is about 45 minutes north of Ottawa. We're in a small town called Low, Quebec. On agricultural land, looking to leverage a lot of the low-cost infrastructure that's available in the province of Quebec. 4 cents a kilowatt-hour flat-rate hydro. We actually believe we're going to be one of the more environmentally friendly production facilities, located only 2 kilometers from one of the largest hydroelectric dams in the province, and 95 acres of land, so ample room to expand. Although our phase 1 facility is going to be about 25,000 square feet. As we obviously want to perfect the highly regulated pharmaceutical production model that we're implementing before we go and blow our brains out and build 150, 200, 500,000 square feet of production.
No, and that's smart too. A lot of these companies are having these massive facilities, and they've never grown more than like 20 plants before. So it's probably smarter starting out small and going larger. But this is going to be going on to the CSC, like we said earlier. Is there a certain price that you're looking at? What was the IPO?
So we completed our IPO financing round at 25 cents a share, raised approximately $5.5 million in various rounds, putting us at a post-money value of approximately $12.75 million, with on the back of raising $5.5 million. So we think that that's a very fair and reasonable valuation for what amounts to be a startup, obviously backed by management that has industry experience and supported by a board of directors that's quite sophisticated for the size company we are. And so we look forward to executing and really building value in the market, as opposed to printing off a bunch of free stock and putting an arbitrary valuation on it and throwing it out there to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely, and that actually is quite competitive, 17.5 or so. Any idea what you might be actually listing on, listing for, or is that still up in the air?
Market will dictate, right? I mean, it's a $12.7 million valuation, and so we're trading at slightly over 2 times cash on hand, which I think with the expansion potential, obviously the phase of the application where it's an existing application that we took over Tetra, so we're at the confirmation of readiness stage. So we all hands on deck to get the facility completed and hopefully licensed as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's definitely a race. And you said you were just beside Ottawa. Did you say you were in Quebec though?
Yeah, we're in Quebec. Yeah, just about 45 minutes north of Ottawa on the Quebec side.
That'll be very interesting. There really aren't that many LPs out there. It'll be a big competitive edge to be able to lock that in.
Yeah, why is that, Ryan? Do you have any idea why we're not seeing a lot of licensed producers out there?
I know one of the issues at the beginning that we actually dealt with this at the beginning stages of the application was that some of the municipalities in the cities took a while before they implemented proper municipal bylaws, particularly for the guys that are growing indoor production facilities. Quebec considers cannabis cultivation to be an agricultural activity. So we, we weren't subject to that kind of having to wait around for municipalities to give you the proper approval to be able to start building indoor production facilities. So that, I think that led to the little bit of a delay. If you look at, Hydropothecary, Hexo being the first licensed producer located on agricultural land, that gave them a significant, head start, and well thought out strategy by those guys. And we're following suit with focus on agricultural production. And I think you're going to start to see more Quebec producers come online. You've got some joint ventures between Aurora, between Canopy, and some retrofitted vegetable growers in the province. And so I think Quebec might have got off to a bit of a slow start, but I think they will rapidly catch up. And there's certainly no denying that Quebec is going to be a very valuable cannabis market. Very liberal-minded province with quite a high level of cannabis consumers, and so it'll be a really good market going forward.
Interesting. And how much of the float is locked up when you go public here?
The majority of the float's locked up. What we did with Tetra was that we issued 15 million shares, which represented approximately 30% of the company, to Tetra, which they then did an in-kind distribution to their shareholder base. So we've obviously, we have a large shareholder base for a company our size, which has given us a lot of outreach and a lot of eyes on what we're doing. And it was also an excellent opportunity for Tetra to monetize an asset that really didn't fit in their business model moving forward. So it's really a win-win for everybody.
Nice. So it can really fly. This thing can do well.
Yeah, and it'll be really interesting. It's like you said, Quebec does not have many. Last time I checked, something like 9. I'm sure that's changed since then. I haven't looked specifically, but Quebec's our second largest province in GDP per capita and everything. Getting in there.
Ryan's got a lot of experience in Quebec. I've been following Ryan. Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm a lifelong Quebecer, and really excited to lead the municipality that we're building our facility in is really going to benefit from the economic development that comes. And I think that's something that you hear Bruce Linton speak about what Canopy's done for Smith Falls, and I think that's an under discussed story in this industry about how we're able to take what amounted to be vacant hay fields and turn them into state-of-the-art cultivation facilities to provide jobs, economic development, as well as tap into a very knowledgeable and skilled workforce. We've been very impressed with the caliber of candidates that have presented themselves looking for employment. And we're really looking forward to leveraging that geographic advantage that we think we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, absolutely. Now, you say you're about to. Have you already spoken to the governing body of Quebec? I'm trying to think of the acronym right now, because they've been all over the news actually with Namaste and how Tilray and supposedly Afria had canceled their contracts because of that. So clearly,
SAQ.
SAQ.
The liquor board, is it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, so the SAC, which is the cannabis spin-off of the SAQ liquor board, certainly they're the ones regulating recreational cannabis in the province moving forward. Typically, Quebec was one of the last adopters of the MMPR, ACMPR program. College of Physicians was really not supportive of physicians prescribing. Until you see companies like Tetra, backed by pure science, really breaking down that barrier and getting a lot of the Quebec physicians on board, being able to prove that cannabis does have a legitimate medicinal and medical value moving forward. So the government agency I was referring to was the actual Agriculture Board of Quebec, that's really pro-cannabis cultivation and is, has considered it an agricultural activity from day one. A little bit dissimilar than what you're seeing in BC, where you've got issues between the Agriculture Board and the producers. They don't want people using agricultural land for cannabis production.
Gotcha.
Okay, and who's doing the security for the facility? You got Hyde on board there, or?
Oh yeah, sure. We've had David on since day one. Obviously, the best in the business, and we feel very comfortable using David Hyde. Cannabis CCI as well has been advising us. And so from an application point of view, everything's ready to go. We will likely be licensed under the Cannabis Act, so there may be some modifications that we'll have to do post October 17th. But really, we're focused right now on construction. We've engaged a firm out of Drummondville, a large industrial construction company. It's actually a neat note that every part of our facility will come from Quebec. All the steel is manufactured in Quebec, refined in Quebec. Everything is built in Quebec by Quebec-based contractors. And so we feel really comfortable, and we're actually able to avoid some of the steel tariff issues that came up during our prospectus process as we were waiting that out, getting our ducks in a row to begin construction. So economically, I think when the market sees what we've spent for the product that we're building, I think that they react very favorably.
Yeah, and I like that you just mentioned that as well, because that's important. Depending on how many people know Quebec government, Quebec business, they keep things inside Quebec. They're very, very loyal to Quebecers. So hearing that it's built by Quebecers, they're there along the entire process. I strongly believe that will bode well for you, as I'm sure you already know.
Yeah, no, we're working in a small municipality as well. I mean, our municipality has been phenomenal. Talking to some other, late-stage applicants and some of the nightmares they've gone through with building permits. I mean, our building permit application process took about 35 minutes. It cost us a couple $100, and we got the stamp and we were good to go. And so very, very different than what you're seeing in Ontario and British Columbia, particularly with some of these companies having to navigate these stringent regulations when really they just want to start building so they can get their company online.
Mm-hmm. Oh, perfect. Well, hey, I just reading a comment in our FTMIG live room saying, Carl, this is so informative. One of our people watching this live, and it's exactly that. I appreciate you taking the time. You do go live tomorrow on the CSC. If you can see the ticker one more time.
I think they're going to do well.
NBUD, we're trading on the CSC tomorrow.
Perfect. Well, we'll look forward to having you on the show again in the near future. Appreciate everything, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Later, Ryan.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to coming back.
Take care, dude.
Awesome. Action-packed afternoon. Action-packed.
It's been a weird day, man.
That's show business. It'll never go the way you think it's going to. We have one more minute. What do we do in the last minute?
Man.
What do we do in the last minute here? What do we say? What do we look for? GGI, come on. That's going to be coming close. CCW, great 280. Love seeing it. Prev doing fantastic.
What's Block Straight at?
Tilray just keeps going to the moon. It's joining Alice up there. And
dude, you've had too many beers today.
I know. I'm on straight vodka now, actually.
Well, we don't have to run. What else do you want to talk about? You want to get out of here already? I'm just having fun now.
Oh, it is the time. It's that time. They got to switch around. We got to get a different man in the seat. A different man. Much better looking.
Oh, we're going to go to the keg?
We're going to go to the keg. Is this a keg endorsement now, too? I love it.
Why not?
You're going to get a rib steak medium with French fries. That's what you're getting.
I'm thinking about leaving TD, man.
Thinking about leaving TD?
TD. I think I'm
going to do that for about a year.
I think I'm going to pull some funds from my TD cash account and move it over to Questrade.
Questrade?
Yeah.
I'm down. I've got something open.
I put in a call. I'm inquiring about their services, and yeah.
We'll have more on that soon. All right, my man. It's been a pleasure. We'll see everybody next week.
All right.
Take care.
Later.